I have not camped in a
Cool. Yeah, so we will start with this week's issues. We'll do it in a little bit of a reverse order. Then I think we'll do demos and then a retro. And then if there's time, we will do the Agile presentation. If there's not time, Jennifer said she was going to do it this week in office hours. So you'll get it either way. Awesome. Yeah, let me share my screen here. Maybe. I wonder if I have the wrong screen. Can you see my, ugh, this is bad. Let me restart this. Desktop 2. Okay. Can you see my GitHub? Cool. Okay. I swear I know how a computer works. All right. So we'll start with issue 10. This is going to be Warren and Gabrielle's issue for the week. So this is, as a user, I want to be alerted when I'm entering an empty item or an item that's already on my list. So down here it says users shouldn't be able to add an empty item to the list, or you shouldn't be able to add the same item twice. To do this, we'll need to show an error message that explains the problem, just to prevent clutter in the list. And then down here, we have some more details in the acceptance criteria. So you'll need to show an error message. I'll leave that up to you, how you want to do that. If you just want to do like an alert or a confirmed dialog box, I've seen groups do it like in the UI. But if you need any insight, we can definitely give you ideas. And then down here, yeah, show an error message if a new item is identical. And then the third one is it's going to be case sensitive. So if you type in like apples uppercase, and then it's just all lowercase apples is already in, it should also error. So there should be a case insensitive thing, and then the user's original input should be saved. Do either of you have any questions on that currently? Okay. Cool. Yeah, if something comes up when you're starting, we're definitely a Slack message away. Let's go into the next one. This one's going to be Nika and Dilek. So as an item, I want my estimated next purchase date to be computed when the time my purchase is recorded in the database, so the app can learn how often I buy different items. So with the summary here, in order to advise users about when to purchase things, the app needs to be able to calculate and guess and store it as a future date. So there is, I believe this is already installed. There's a Collab Lab shopping list utils NPM package that has this calculate estimate function that you can use in order to calculate that future date. So further down here, acceptance criteria, when the user purchases an item, you're going to want to set the date next purchase in that add item function. And then that's going to be calculated using that calculate estimate. You're going to want to save it as a JavaScript date, not as a number. Get days between dates function is going to be exported from util/dates.js and imported into API Firebase.js. This function will take 2 JavaScript dates, and then it returns the number of days between them. And then down here, here's some like hot tips and tricks. I think maybe Gabrielle asked about this regarding like the timestamps. So spoiler alert there. Timestamp, I believe, is a Firestore specific like data construct. So Firestore will return dates as a timestamp object. And this kind of gives you some tips and tricks on how to do it, a direct link to their docs. And then down here, there's some tips and tricks on how to calculate time between JavaScript dates. Because it's one of those things that sounds super straightforward, but once you start doing it, it may not be. Yeah, there's definitely do not sleep on this notes section for this task. Off the top of your head, do you have questions, Nika, or are you good to get started on that?
We're good to get started.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, and then Dilek can watch this recording. Awesome. Let me stop this. Yeah, time zones and timestamps. Yeah, once we get to issue 13 as well. It's very doable. I think everything is very doable, but issue 13, in my opinion, is by far the hardest. So that's next week. If you are on issue 13, definitely start earlier, is my unsolicited advice. Awesome. So that's issues. I'm going to hand it off to Hassan for demos.
Awesome. Hey, folks. Sorry for being a little bit late. We were still in the car trying to park and all that good stuff. Hope everyone's doing well. Yeah, we're going to jump right into demos here. So the issues that we worked on this time were issue 8 and 9. Issue 8 was the welcoming message when there's no items in the list. And of course, issue 9 was the marking something has been purchased, and then of course saving the date on there. So let's go ahead and kick off with issue 8 here with Nika and Warren. If you guys want to go ahead, share your screen, take it away. As you're doing that, I'd love for you guys to not only demo functionality, but some of the ways you've refactored the code to get it to where you want it to be. I'd love for you guys to kind of walk through that too.
I think that maybe Warren wants to go first with the UI, and then I'll talk about the back house of it.
Yeah,
Okay.
sounds
Yeah,
great.
I can go first. Let me share my screen. Okay. Can you guys see my screen? Okay. So for ours, we want to show a prompt when the list is empty. So for example, when we look at like a test list, like test 8, right now there's nothing in the list, so it shows a prompt saying, ready to add your first item, start adding below. And this will force the user to start adding to a list down here. Maybe like coffee. We can do like a kind of soon, enter. This has been added to a list. Looks okay. And now since there's an item in the list, the prompt is gone, and now the users can continue to add to your list or etc. And yeah, that's it. That's our issue for the week.
That's awesome. I love it. And then over to you, Nika.
Yes, I'm about to share my screen. Can you see my screen? Yes, great. So I felt really excited about the whole refactoring thing. So I have a lot to say, so I'm gonna try to say not a lot. So the original task and the acceptance criteria was to create a little prompt message. So we are making use of a ternary operator over here, and we're checking if we have any data. If we have the data, we are displaying just the list and some forms and our items, of course. And if we don't have any items, we're displaying a little message and our reusable add items component. So I wanted to talk a little bit how we made those reusable components. So first of all, our major refactor started with this manage this component that shrunk beautifully. So now it's a true page component that displays other reusable components. Very happy about that. And so I want to talk a little bit about what happened inside of those components. So these two objects do need a little bit more of refactoring. I tried to optimize, the radio input and to create an object that we can map over in order to display several components. So this is what I came up to, but I do see that it needs to get drier than it is now. And so the radio elements that I'm mapping it over is this little piece of code. So we're mapping over this radio input object. It's a little cluttered, we're getting there. And also, I want to point that we're actually not using state anymore in order to extract the value. With the Asan's help, we're actually doing it a stateless way. We're extracting it directly from the event object, and we're using an ID in order to do that. So same thing happens in the share list component. We also do not use the state anymore and just extracting the form value directly from the event object. And we're also making use of our new usable component, which is text input element. So two major things that happened I'm very happy about is you can see that we have, here you can see the most. So we have a text input element and a radio input element, which helps to make our code truly react. We are making it dry, reusable, modular, everything how it truly should be. And so the text input element is taking some props, which again, I did not know what's going to be more intuitive, whether it should be like a children or like a prop. So Asan said that it should actually be like a prop. So I plan to add a different prop, which would be a label prop instead of this children. And for the radio input element, also it's taking some props, displaying some, displaying the children. And also one thing that is coming up as a refactor is these input elements do not need to be required. And so the additional prop will be introduced, which is whether it is required or not required. Thank you.
Awesome, nicely done. And just a great job leaning into the suggestions and seeing how the code could be cleaner, simplified, add more clarity. Sometimes the suggestions are not like, hey, it could be better, but it could just be more readable. And it's tough for a developer, especially someone else looking at the code, when they read through the code and they're like, I don't exactly know what's happening. So sometimes those suggestions kind of come from there, but very nicely done. Awesome.
Thank you.
Over to issue 9. As a user, I want to mark an item on my shopping list as purchase so the app can learn how often I buy it. Over to you, Gabrielle.
Thank you. Also, before I begin, I just want to preface this with the fact that I have not had time to make changes to the code yet. So I'll get that done either this evening or tomorrow morning. Super tired after camping, so I just did not have the energy. But let me share my screen. Okay. So our issue this week was to mark an item as purchased on our list. So I have one of our lists pulled up here, and you can see that one of the items is checked off as purchased, and then we can go ahead and purchase another item. And then I need to move this bar out of my way. And then looking at the Firebase, we can see maybe. So you can see that that test item was just purchased, and then it sets the date next purchase to 24 hours from now. This will get refactored a little bit. And then it increments the total purchases. So you can see that we have purchased one of this item. And then going over to the code. So down here, I set up our checkbox and then has an ID to match the label.
Gabrielle, I think you're still sharing the Firebase screen in case you wanted to share the code.
Thank you.
Of course.
I thought I shared my whole screen. 1 second. Okay, can you see it now? Okay, thanks. Okay, so again, we have our checkbox down here with the ID to match the label. And then it's set to checked when the item is purchased, which is local state up here. And then we have our on change to toggle the item as purchased. And then once you do check off that item, it sends the list path and the item ID to the update item function in the Firebase file. So we're referencing the item path here, and then we're setting the date purchase to a new date, which is the date from when the item is checked off. And then it updates with that date, increments the total purchases, and then sets the date next purchase to 24 hours from then. And the last piece is this use effect up here that on the page load sets the current date and then uses that to check whether the checkbox should be checked or not. So it compares the current date to the purchase date. And if it hasn't been 24 hours, then the item is still checked off. And if it has been 24 hours or more, then it's set to false or the item is not checked off. And I think that's everything. So this will get some changes based on Asan's review. And I'll make sure to get that done soon so the other group can finish their work. And that's it.
Nicely done. And just as a heads up, just for context, the only reason that hasn't made it into the code so far is issue 11. The next purchase date is set using a utility, kind of what we went over with Danielle. So I didn't want a major refactor when we work on that work. So I think hopefully we can do the refactor here and merge that work in, just to make it easier on whoever the next team is working on that. Because the functionality wise is really well. Acceptance criteria, I think there's just a few misses there. And so as soon as we can refactor that part, it'll be good to go. But very nicely done. These issues were not easy. So way to go and tackle those. Awesome. I think it's over to Jennifer to do the retros at this time. Yeah, cool.
I had a quick question.
Yeah.
In regards to code before, I noticed there's like a you can increase the total number, I think total count. I was just wondering, like, when is there instance of it can increase to like count of 2 or 3? Like, when does that kick in?
I personally don't have any context with that because I see these issues the same time you do. I haven't looked at these issues before, but maybe Danielle and Jennifer, you guys have more context into future issues. I think the question is there ever a time where the increment is more than 1? So could a user maybe specify they want to buy 2 of an item and then submit that to the database?
That is not part of the core tasks. But after next week, you all will have 3 weeks to do styling and to add any extra features. So if you do decide that you want to add that feature and you have time, I would encourage to do it during that time. But yeah, not in the core issues. That's a good question.
That's awesome. If you do decide to pursue that, I'd love that. I mean, that would make it so much more usable for the user. You know, if I want to buy 2 corns instead of 1 corn, it would help me from doing redundant tasks.
Perfect, cool. Well, was there anything pertaining to demos that anybody else want to talk about? Otherwise, what I'm gonna do is go ahead and drop the retro board in the chat. And then Asan, can you remind me, I think last time, did we have like about 10 or 15 minutes for people to fill up the board?
Yeah, I think we
forgot
did about
exactly how
7
much
to
time
10
we gave.
minutes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
let's do
so
7
let's
10
go
minutes.
ahead. Yeah, let's go ahead and do about 10 minutes then. Yeah, like I agree with the comment there. But basically, let's take the next 10 minutes. So until 1:32, you can go off camera and do what you like as you fill out the retro board. This is going to be the same thing as last time. If you open up the retro board, we're just going to be doing appreciations, what went well, what could be improved. And then at the very end, we'll tack on some action items if there's anything that we want to comment on. And did we lose a song? About 10 minutes. So I'll let everyone give another 20 seconds to wrap up and come back on. And then we'll go through all of these as usual. Appreciations are usually my favorite. And then we'll go ahead and continue on with the retro. So I think what will be best here is I'll hover over these cards. Can you all see my cursor here? Does this look big enough for you all? And whoever's card it is, if you can just give a quick voiceover of, as we go through the different cards, kind of what your thoughts are there, and then we'll move on to the next person. All right, cool. So Danielle, I think you're kicking us off.
I'll go first. Asan did a really great job with code review this week. Looked like there was a moderate amount of back and forth, which isn't a criticism or a bad thing at all. But as a code reviewer, it requires a little bit more work and attention to detail just to make sure that all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted. So great job on that.
Yes, teamwork and mentor guidance, very much appreciated. Teamwork was very strong, and I just want to especially also say thank you, Gabrielle, for doing what you did, and camping at the same time. And I also just wanted to say a special thank you to Hassan for leaving so many comments. I have learned so much. I cannot even start here. And I also want to say, just thank you for going through all of my commits, because I know it was a bit of a thought process, and the amount of commits was quite big, and I think it's a great case for a rebase later on. Yeah, just thank you so much. It is much, much appreciated.
All right, perfect. Yeah, things were fun when you see 58 comments on the PR. So, all right. This is up
This is me.
next.
I enjoyed working with Nika. She's really passionate about coding, which makes it a lot, easier and more fun to work on an issue.
Thank you, Asan, for the great feedback on my code this week. I'm looking forward to diving into that later and making those changes. And the next one is mine too. I appreciate the extra communication and support from everybody in Slack when I ran into a couple of issues while working solo this week. So thanks for being there.
Oh, this one's me. All right, I think I gave the same appreciation last time we had a retro, but I think just this week, Asan was, as usual, on top of the Slack, and just all of the comments and the PRs. It's always exciting to see when there's a lot of conversation going on, and so thank you for giving so much life to all of our collaboration, Asan.
Yeah, and just wanted to make sure that Gabrielle got recognition for mostly working solo this week. Fantastic job. And yeah, you got really close to getting it merged. So honestly, that's really impressive to me. So thank you.
Perfect. Yes.
Like everyone said, thank you, Hassan, for the support the entire week. Appreciate it.
Perfect. All right. Well, appreciations are done. We're going to go over with what went well. So this will be pretty similar, but just want to always emphasize what things that we think went over really well. Because I think retros can kind of focus on, oh, what do we need to improve a lot? But we also have to celebrate our wins this week. So, Warren, I think you kick it off.
Jennifer, I think you have to scroll up a
Oh, did I not?
little
Okay, okay, there we go, there we go.
I was gonna be like, I remember mine being the first one. No, I just want to thank everyone for the appreciation. I think I've said this many times, but I think the learning actually happens in the code reviews. It's collaboration that happens in Slack, partnered with the code review. And I think that's where the most learning happens. So thank you for being open to it. My comment here was everyone's leaning into collaboration, sharing their blockers and progress more openly and frequently. I absolutely love seeing that. I think a team that can communicate well in Slack or whatever their platform is for communication is the team that does well. And just, especially for someone that goes out of office if they're sick, coming back to all that collaboration and communication on Slack allows them to catch up really quickly. And that's why it's so important to do it transparently in the team channel. So everyone's leaning into that really nicely done, folks.
Yeah, kind of similar. I've enjoyed seeing more chatter in our TCL 75 and the feed channel. That's really helpful because if you are not directly involved in something, but then later you are, you can go back and get that context. So always love when teams default to public channels as much as possible.
Am I next? Oh yeah. So
Yes. All right, I should have called you out. Yeah.
So me and Nico were able to finish the issue pretty early on the week, so which gave us more time for feedback and review comments from the other team or assign or mentors.
Yeah, same. I just wanted to echo what Warren just said. Really appreciate that he was able to meet early in the week, and I think it just set us up for success. Truly, thank you.
I think this one is mine. But it's a lot of the same things that everybody else has been saying. Basically, collaboration has really been on display lately, and we love to see that. I think it's hard to imagine what it means to be loud when, like in the earlier weeks, we're asking, okay, please be loud in Slack, please be loud in Slack, please be loud in the PRs. And what does that look like? And last week is exactly what it looks like. And so I want you all to know that this is exactly the spirit of Collab Lab, and it is going on strong. So good job, everybody.
Awesome. This last one is mine. I said everyone's leaning into the feedback and suggestions provided and taking actions to improve the code base. Again, thank you for just being open to refactoring code and changing things, even though it's not code that you directly worked with. I know this is very specific to like Nika and Warren, where you guys refactored some code and extracted some components, and then you're getting all this feedback on work that wasn't really related to your work, but I think you had the capacity to work on it just because of how you could have done something really simple, just added some text if the list was empty, but you took the opportunity to make use of that additional capacity to kind of make the code base better. So thank you for doing that.
And that definitely happens a lot at work. You didn't write it and you're like, oh, I have to fix this now. What is this stuff? So great job. All right, cool. So now we're gonna move on to, let me move all your faces first. What could be improved? And I think I actually scrolled to the top this time. So I think Warren, you can start us off.
So even though we were able to finish pretty early this week, I feel like we could for next week. I think I could finish even earlier, so there's more time to even address the comments.
I definitely agree with everything Warren just said, but I specifically want to point out that the regression of the features is happening, so the unit tests are needed, and I definitely want to put some time into that.
Awesome. Kind of echoing the same thing. I think it's time we start to introduce some unit tests to test like core functionality. And perhaps if we have time and capacity, introduce end-to-end testing. I think that'll be really cool and something to lean into if you get an opportunity, because I think it's definitely being used in the job market right now. And to have those skills early, I think would be really cool. Yeah, just to make sure we haven't introduced any regression. It's very easy to make sure just your code is working, but then as reviewers, we test out the functionality of the whole app and sometimes find things that get broken. So having them use unit test and then more. I said my action item to implement like those tests passing in our CI pipeline. I think it's really going to improve our code base further.
Yeah, I think just kind of echoing, some feedback from the last one and this one, just making sure that we get everything reviewed, approved, merged before the weekly sync, minus, extenuating circumstances, that's fine. But just kind of really wanted to emphasize that a lot of times I see developers write code and they merge it into main, but then they don't think about deploying it. Deploying code is a huge part of the software development lifecycle that I think gets overlooked, because if you don't deploy it, no one can use it. So that's why I really emphasize, if you can, don't demo off of local hosts, deploy things. If you are doing like a personal portfolio project, learn how to deploy it. That will definitely differentiate you from other candidates. So that's my bias. Thank you. Next person.
Okay, I really want to advocate for that. So our whole project is in JavaScript. I think it's really time that we convert it to TypeScript. Stacy made a guest appearance in the office hours, and I kind of brought that up, and I shared how another team has already done that, and they found really great success with it, right? Like we need type checking and whatnot. So I think I'm more than happy to tackle that. It's not going to be an easy task, and I definitely don't want to put it on anyone. But if everyone's open to it, I'd love to convert code base from JavaScript to TypeScript. I think it'll be good exposure.
Oh, yeah. So kind of in that same vein, I think I enjoyed seeing a lot of the refactoring this week. And I think in the weeks leading up to this, we had just been kind of like adding code in, but being intentional about what separations of concerns and what logic should belong in where, instead of just like dumping it all out in one component is a hard next step to do when you're early on. And so I really enjoy seeing that. And I think continuing that same vein of like naming things really succinctly for clarity and organization will only make everything a lot better. And it's a really good practice for you because this will be the main context holder for how you deliver context to your other team members at work or in Collab Lab as well. Hey, cool. I think, is there any kind of conversation that we want to have about some of the what could be improved items? Because I think there were bigger things that were discussed and proposed. I don't know if we want to take the time now to decide if these are things that we want to do, because I do want to flag that I think all of these ideas are really great. I personally use TypeScript at work, but it is also another hurdle to go through early on, trying to figure out why does this type not match? Like what is this like weird error? Is why does this say this is never, like just small stuff like that? And so I just want to make sure that the team is on the same page of this is something that we want to commit to. I think the two things that I saw that were more along those lines were unit tests and also integrating TypeScript into our project. And so I know that I struggled with those two things early on. And so I want to make sure that we don't add additional, what do you call it? Like load, because I want to be cognizant that we have 5 hours a week for this. And if these are the things that we want to focus on. So does anyone have any thoughts on either of those topics?
If I can, I want to say that I have a bunch of free time. I'm not a professional quality assurance engineer, but I would love to write some tests for the entire app. I have all the time in the world. You don't even know. Yeah, if there is like a preferred framework you want me to go with, I would love to hear that. Otherwise, I have fiddled with V-tests and it worked for me. Yeah, that's all. And for the TypeScript, I would also be on the team to refactor it. I'm not super strong in TypeScript, but like I would love to dig in there.
Yeah, I think TypeScript, including TypeScript in the code base probably would have alleviated a lot of the issues. I think, for example, Nika, when we met up during our office hours, a lot of the issues that you all encountered probably would have been flagged earlier if we were using TypeScript. So that's definitely a plus for TypeScript. So it seems like I think there's not a general opposition or any other opinions. We can continue this conversation like asynchronously on Slack before we make any hard decisions, but I just wanted to leave some room for anyone to give any comments. So if there's going to be no more comments on kind of these two things that I raised, let's move on to action items.
Awesome. The first one's fine. I think it's really great that we're leaning into the test, but if we don't ensure that those tests are passing as part of our continuous integration pipeline, they won't be really any good to us. So that's something that I can tackle really quickly. I'll just make sure that those tests are something that happens as a check in our pipeline before things can actually be merged. So that's all it is.
The next 4 at least are mine. So this is just like a continuing refactor to act on the comments that Asan kindly left on our PR. So there was that radio input options object that was a bit grotesque and could get drier. So that was the point. Then Asan also pointed out that there is still logic that it checks whether the string is empty when the item name is added, but we actually already check it with the browser and native support. So that check can be removed. And then also I decided to pass a children prop into a text input element and a radio input element, but it would probably be better if we were to pass a label prop instead and display it as a label instead of a children prop. And the last one is to allow for the text input element and a radio input element to be required or not required, and also to pass a relevant prop.
Perfect. Okay, I think those are all the action items. Is there anything else that anyone wanted to bring up today? It could be for any of the other topics as well during this retro. I just want to leave like a minute or two for anybody else who wants to voice anything for the retro. Okay, perfect. So I think that's it for the retro this week. Thank you everyone so much for participating and giving your opinions and your thoughts. We have about 10 minutes left. I'm not sure if we have enough time for the learning module this week or for this meeting, because I think it would probably take longer than 10 minutes. So I want to kind of kick it back to everyone to see if there's any general questions that you have for this upcoming week or this last week, or any other like discussion items that you'd want to talk about before we head out.
I was gonna say right before starting, you could just I'm just gonna make a quick comment. Do you want to convert things into action items like we did last week? Danielle just made a really great comment about converting things
Oh,
into
yeah.
tickets if we commit to doing it as a team.
Let me share this retro board again. All right. So of all these, oh, I see there's one on the bottom here that I missed.
Oh, I just added it as an action item.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sounds great. So for all these different things, is everyone on board to add tests to our CI pipeline? So basically what this means is that you'll be writing, and at first it can just be unit tests. And every time that you push the code up, these tests will run. And if they fail, it will block you from merging. And so you'll actively need to go in and see why the tests are failing. So just want to be sure everyone understands what that means. Is that good to go for everyone? And if it is, then I'll go ahead and make it an issue. Can I get a thumbs up for some sort of yes? Okay, cool. All right, we'll convert this into an issue. Oh.
Was added to someone else's code base.
We'll give other people a job for our code base. Sounds like a great idea. All right.
Team 80 has to do this.
Oh, no. Okay. I didn't know it would do that. All right. So all of these different tickets, Vika, I think maybe, do you want to just make them all into one issue? Do you mind creating the issue? Because I didn't want to like flood with 4 different issues that I think probably will go into the same PR.
Yeah, totally. I'll do that.
Cool. Awesome. And then for this one, I don't know if we really need an issue for this one, but I think totally we can just make a poll in the Slack channel, and then we can see how people think about using TypeScript, and if there's any like super opposition or anything like that, just so we can discuss it a little bit further. Sounds
Yeah,
good.
we can create a ticket if everyone decides on it.
All right, cool. And I think that covers all the action items for today.
I had a question. How are people feeling about merge conflicts? Mostly because I noticed Gabrielle currently has one. Like, do you feel like maybe you might need some more support or help with it, or have you been like pretty easy to get through them?
I should be able to get through it. I haven't looked at it yet, so I will let you know. But I've had some experience working through them, so it should be okay.
Cool. Yeah, I just know. Yeah, at first when you're just trying to learn Git, it's a little overwhelming, especially if it's a really hairy one.
Yeah.
Doing
Also,
it in the
feel
GUI if you can.
yeah, feel free to ask to meet anybody that you would need to outside of like office hours or anything like that. You don't have to save your questions for office hours. Just letting you know. Sometimes you might just need a quick like 10-minute pairing session to clear up a question. So feel free to always in the Slack post it if you need help. Okay, cool. Well, excuse me, I just choked. But we have about like what is this, like 7 minutes left. Is there anything else that anyone wants to discuss? Or I'm gonna kick it back to the mentors first if there's anything else that you want to discuss for this meeting, and then kind of we can close it out with any other outstanding questions.
Oh, I had a good comment I wanted to make. As you get feedback on your pull request, feel free and empowered to say that you want to tackle something as a fast follow, so you can still advocate for your main pull request to make it in. I know early developers can sometimes feel like, oh no, like here's all these suggestions, I have to action them before my work will make it in. And that's not how it's meant to be taken. I think as long as core functionality is there, you'll get an approval. And then you can easily be like, oh yeah, like that's a great suggestion. Let me go ahead and create an issue and I'll tackle it in that issue, which is really great. So don't ever feel like suggestions are there to block you. Most of them are non-blockers, just really great suggestions. So the concept of fast follow is very common in code, just so you can get your work in front of users, and then you can always make it better behind the scenes, because users don't get to see that work, right? So feel free and empowered to be like, no, that's a fast follow and it's not core functionality.
Yeah, I don't think I really have anything. So awesome. Yeah. Yeah, if we're good to end now, I'm good with that. We'll be around Slack and happy to help each other out. And thanks for all the great work this week. Looking forward to next week.
Thank you so much.
Bye everyone.
Thank you.